What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the newly released Masters of the Universe New Eternia, the Mattel Creations exclusive of Moss-man. And today we will look at the many faces of Moss-man. And of course, this will not be an in-depth review because there are many out there. But at least we can look at the new one through some other ones that have been released through the years to do some compare and contrast. But we will look at this packaging because it looks beautiful with Moss-man's actual portrait with the glowing eyes in yellow, which I really think that's the way they should have done the actual figure, and you will see what I mean a little bit later with all the waves and moss and vegetation. It looks absolutely stunning. And there is a nice cross-cell artwork. I don't know who did the art, but whoever did it did a phenomenal job as always. It looks beautiful. Moss-man never looked any cooler, and I'm glad to see that he finally gets his dues, and instead of just being a simple repaint of Beastman like we were traditionally known for through the years since the vintage line, he finally has his own look, style, and aesthetic, which makes him stand out and actually makes you feel more appreciation for the character because he actually feels like his own character finally. And that for me is a fantastic thing. So without further ado, here goes a quick pause so that we can take a quick look at the figure and then compare them to others. But remember, as always, thank you for joining me. This is your host, Hiba, and this is another episode of Toys in My Closet. So sit back, relax, have a digital drink, and I hope you guys have a good time the way I intend to try to give you a good time with this little video. So I'll see you back, guys, in a blink of an eye. And here we go, guys. Here is Moss-man out of packaging. And I basically took him completely off to strip him down, with the exception of the two legs, because the bottom part you would have to heat up for a substantial amount of time and correctly to then remove those two pieces on his actual ankles and shin guards of his feet because of the fact that it's just a process is a lot longer. So I left that on. But overall, if you wanted to display him in the classic style with just his regular body and the actual, loincloth, that's it. This is how he would look. And he looks really great. And this body is a very familiar body, obviously, as you guys can probably tell. It is a familiar body. It is the body that we had with the original Beastman that came out at Target, the Deluxe Beastman, which was a Target exclusive. And as you guys can see, his eyes are actually green, which for me, although it's cool, I think he would look better with some gold eyes to match the belt that he has. And you see that he has, very good detail. The fur, everything is there, going down the legs. And you see that the shin guards or the ankle guards are really nice. Looks like, a bunch of vines and wood coming out of them, which is a cool idea. And I think it's very fitting to the Moss-man character because, he basically, it stands out. And, aesthetically, it represents him, I think, quite well. And then his feet. Of course, I'm going to get a quicker look or a closer look. There's his feet. So, that's what he looks like. Completely, unarmed and, I guess, bare bone is the proper term. Then, what we'll do is we'll harness back. And what I'll show you is that this is one of the shin guards that he comes with. Very, very nice. Let's zoom back in. And you see all the beautiful details with actual highlights of like it almost like looks like patina, an arm of like that bronze or mossy green, and then wraps on the other side. Here's the arm for the wrist on the other side. It looks like vines. It's made out of vines, which is really clever. It looks really good. Another nice one. Nicely done with that green, as you can see. Then these are his bicep, for his bicep guards. These are another vine. It looks like, bark and tree branches that fit on his bicep. That's one side. And this is the other side. It's a little smaller to make it have differentialities and look unique in its own right on each side. Here's his blade, his little knife. He has like a little side pocket knife. Nice wraps with the green on the tip and on the, I forgot what that's called, guard. Something guard. Here's his new mace. His new mace looks cool. It's kind of got the flavor of the old, but with some nice aesthetics of the new. With the gold and brown, and then looks like bronze gold with the moss patina on it as well. Here's one of his arms in branching and viney kind of a look, to like he's extending himself hands out to, but it looks like like vines and stuff like that. Then here's his vine belt where you put the little blade, and you can see the sheath. Looks really nice. And then his chest armor looks like this. Very nice. All that hair, lines coming across, wood bark spikes coming out to the back. Really nice. It is removable, very easy, with nice clips, not the old school vintage ones that were like really difficult. So that's cool. He comes completely stacked. So now what we'll do is we'll zoom back out and we'll take a short pause, and we're going to take a look at him with everything on. And here we go, guys. Here we have Moss-man completely accessorized with everything he comes with. And as you can see, he looks absolutely spectacular with everything he has. He looks really great. He just looks amazing. Can't complain. You see the actual bicep guards, like I said, or straps on his biceps. You see all of the details of his of his chest harness. He has the extra strap that goes alongside, and all this is nice and soft too, so you can move him around with the articulation. That holds the little dagger, the vine in the one hand. I kind of wish you had one for each hand and two gripping hands, so that you can put the mace on either side that you choose to, which is cool. But either way, he just looks spectacular. Like I said, there's his face. You see that it has the greenish eyes. I think the gold suits him much better. And as you can see, he just looks great. And so that you guys can see what I meant about his buck being very. This is probably the same exact one with some new tooling, of course, of the Beastman that was the Target exclusive, which I'll bring in here. And he doesn't have all the accessories because I did customs with the other Beastman releases to make my favorite Beastman, but I don't know if you can see it there. Let me see if I can put it more on this side because of the vine. I don't know. Side by side. Back a little bit on the camera, and there you guys can see. You can see how. Let's bring this down a little bit, like this, right? Adjust it. There we go. you can see how the bucks for the Beast-man and the Moss-man are very similar. He looks a tad taller, but that's because for some reason with this Beast-man here, which got me upset, it's kind of like the Whiplash that was also a Target exclusive. On the knees, they didn't fully bend to make it look straight the way, for example, that Moss-man is straight. He doesn't sit up straight because of the way they designed the knees for those, that they were kind of on a bent mold or in a kind of like the way the vintage were, that they looked like they were kind of sitting down or crotched a little bit. That's how they did his design for Beast-man. I don't know why, and that kind of got pissed me off because I like the fact that he's so girthy and big and very animalistic, as you know, because he's Beast-man, obviously. But these two guys standing next to each other look great. You know that they have other big guys like Too Bad, which is going to look fantastic next to him as well, or even Snout Spout, because he's also very big. And I think that's fantastic. But there you have it, and that's why you see the similarities, but with new tooling, of course. So now let's take a look at the many faces of Beast-man. All right, guys, and here we are. Here we have the many faces of Moss-man. And forgive me, because before the cut, I did say Beast-man. I did realize that. I'm sorry. Now, really fast, I do have to say that Moss-man's one of the primary coolest things that made him stand out and made him unique, from the very beginning in the vintage line, is that he was flocked. Now, due to, I guess, cost, because things have gone up significantly, and flocking is a very tedious process. And so I guess because of that, the cost would have made some of these figures much higher, including the newer and newly released Moss-man through Mattel Creations, because his MSRP price is $35 or $34.99 plus tax and shipping, of course. Now, would I have loved seeing a version of it, maybe somewhere down the line as an exclusive? Yes. I think if they flocked all of his body on the new version, and then they just left his accessories like this harness, his loincloth, and the belt, all the other stuff that comes off just with the plastic, and then had his body actually flocked and his face, or his mane of his face, just excluding where his actual facial feature is, I think he would look outstanding. But I think it would make the figure probably cost maybe $65 or maybe $55 at the very lowest, because again, the process is expensive and very tedious. So here we have on this corner the one from Revelations, which I don't know why this figure got hate, because this figure is actually a very beautiful, beautiful sculpt and interpretation of Moss-man. He looks fabulous, and he was sculpted by the Four Horsemen, which were the ones that, did the same sculpting for all of the classic. There's a wonderful head portrait, a lot of details, nice different colors of shades of green, from moss green to money green. And I did put this harness on, which is originally from Classics, and shout outs to my friend Jorge, because he bought the Classics one for his collection, but he didn't like the added bandana with the little dagger, which is right there, which was the Four Horsemen trying to pay an homage to the 2000X version. And they did a fantastic job with the loincloth, as you see there, with the belt looking very He-Man, very classic. His mace was completely different, had a plethora of details, vines, leaves, feathers coming out of him, all the way down to the leg. The leg sculpt, I think, was great. The shin guards looking more mossy, like they had moss around them, for example, while the other part of his thighs looked more bare-boned and muscular. And then his feet look really awesome. They look like, actual vines spreading out in the ground. And the only problem, because of that design, And then, of course, he had also the vine effect coming out of his hands, which is transforming into something to grab maybe a villain or whatnot. The only problem is that because his feet were designed that way, he was a very difficult figure to stand. And people, just hate it just because it was changing something different. But I like that they did that because, of course, like I said already several times, it made Moss-man have more characteristics, and he felt like a unique character as opposed to feeling like a repaint or just a reiteration with Flock of Beastman. Now, this is the classics, and ironically, this was also sculpted by the Four Horsemen, which they did a beautiful job. And there was a exclusive version for the Comic-Con, I believe, where the ears were flocked as well, and that one went for a lot of money. I don't really know why, because I think this one's better when it makes his ears and his face stand out with that unique face sculpt. And in this case, his eyes are also kind of that greenish, which is cool. And then you see the flocking all over him. The traditional loincloth, the only thing this time they made it longer as opposed to shorter, which I thought was cool, because some of the MOTU figures came with the old shorter ones like vintage, and then they made some of them with the longer ones to make them look cooler. And I think they did a good job by making that decision. He had obviously the little brace there, the mace, of course, brace on the other side, and flocked all the way to the feet except his toes were showing, and in the back. And this was also sculpted by the Four Horsemen, these designs and body, which is great. And it's a beautiful figure still to today. But that actual, like I said, zoom out again, that actual bandana goes on him, and he looked cool with it. So I thought he looked great. This is not mine. This is actually Jorge's, because I couldn't get to mine, but I have all my classics put away, and I would have had to taken days to take it out just to do this little video. Now I do have the 2000X, which is also a mail away from the comic book or toy magazine called Toy Fair, which doesn't no longer exist. And I do have them, but again, he's put away, so it was hard for me to take out. And I do have the little one that is based off the the Mega Constructs. And then I also have the vintage one, but it's based off Oranges, obviously, which is the vintage one, but with articulation. So now we're going to move on to the last one I have here, and that is the Four Horsemen version homage from the Mythic Legion collection that they have and that they created, which is their own line of warriors, beasts, and wizards. So let's take a closer look at him very quickly in a few seconds. Okay, so I took a quick pause to kind of let the camera cool off, but real quick, this is what the actual classics Moss-man looks like. And that is the sash with the little dagger, of course, that is removable, that I had originally on the Revelations over here before, when I was looking at him. So I put it on so you guys can see what it looked like, at least, because it did look cool. So the homage that the Four Horsemen did with Moss-man for the Mythic Legion lines that they did is absolutely spectacular. It's a stunning figure, very beautiful. I mean, you know off the hip, it's Moss-man. They gave him yellow eyes, which was cool. It was a nice touch. I'll take this out of here. It was a nice touch with the yellow eyes, because I think it makes it stand out much, much more, in my personal humble opinion. As you can see, he's got a spectacular face sculpt with the little, his teeth coming out, his canines, so to speak. He has the little knife sash that goes on his chest. They gave him shoulder pauldrons, a mace that's very, very similar but different to the classics. Again, the long loincloth with some actual straps of leather and goldish looking rings, metal rings, the belt. He holds, you know, the guards are in like a nice bronze, copper, whatever, like the color of a penny, goldish, yellowish, goldish, belt. You know, you see he has his wrist guards and then the shin guards for the legs. Same color, really nicely done. With the feet, and you see that he's completely flocked. Then you can put wings on him if you want with this attachment, or pieces to hold like his belt or his weapons rather, or like even add other things like maybe a cape or things of that nature. And then he also came with this very, very elongated staff that's hard to hold on his hand, because the problem is that every time you go to use it, which you can see there, looks really nice. Let me see if I can zoom it in. You see how it has a lot of detail with like a crystal ball at the end, and it does come apart on the top, and you attach it. Really nicely done. The problem is, like I said, that it's very, very long. So because of that, it falls off very easily. So I'm gonna take a quick pause. So there you have it, guys. There it is, the many faces of Moss-man. So what I'll do real quick, just so that you can get kind of like a size comparison or an idea of how big the new Moss-man is, I'm gonna put a G.I. Joe classified next to him, which is basically, I'm gonna put here Alpine right next to him, and there you go. There you can see the discrepancies in size. But the new Moss-man is spectacular. Thumbs up. I think Mattel did a fantastic job. So you guys, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and that it was a lot of fun. Like I had done, fun making it. So like with the thumbs up, thumbs down, dislike. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think, what your thoughts about this figure. And as always, share this video with someone you think might like it. And you guys can always find me in any of these social media outlets. It's all down in the description below. Thank you for all of you that continue to follow me and give me support, because without you, my channel will not be sustained. And if you're new to the channel, I hope you subscribe or left a comment, because it really means the world to me. And I know you didn't have to, but since you did, remember, now I consider you part of my family. This is your host, C-Bot, signing off with another episode of Towards My Cause. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.